So, hello everyone, welcome to our channel Utopia Unfiltered. I'm Durga Rawat, your host for today, is doing a podcast which pertains to journalistic path to utopia. In this, we'll also try to decipher the strategies to make a better world through journalism. And for this, we have with us Miss Soumya Subramaniam, who is a senior project manager at KARM Fellowship. She works as a communications, campaigns, and community strategist. She is a law graduate from National Law University Jodhpur. She has also worked as a desk editor in CNN. So, ma'am, firstly, I would like to thank you for coming here to doing this podcast with us. It's a pleasure to have you and talk with you.
My pleasure to be here, Durga.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming here. So our topic is basically the thing we are talking about is utopia, the concept of utopia. So for society, how do you perceive a utopian society or a perfect world?
Okay, that's a really, really tough question. I'll be very honest, because I personally don't believe in
Mm.
perfection, so to speak. I think that, in fact, a utopia would be one where there is quite a lot of room for imperfection, the imperfection of human beings, and therefore some amount of imperfection of the systems that human beings create, right? But if I were to broadly talk about, what I think a utopia would be, I think that a utopia would be a society or a world where people have meaningful choices that they can make, and they also have the agency to be able to act on these meaningful choices and actually chart their own future. Right now, I think a lot of things are left to lotteries, so to speak, right? The lottery of the country you're born in, the lottery of the family you are born to. These are things that actually play maybe they have a very deterministic role to play in a future, right? If you're born to an educated family, you're likely to get an education. Okay. If you are born into a family where your mother works, that's when the daughter is also likely to grow up and become a working woman, right? So to me, a utopia would be one where people can make choices. It's not left to fate. It's not left to determinism. So yes, so that's how I would define a utopia, as one where, shall we say, a 23-year-old, when they graduate from one that they should have graduated from college, every 23-year-old would have graduated with some sort of higher education. And then instead of one choice about their future, this is the job, take it or leave it, they have at least three choices. I think it's as simple as that. Three meaningful choices. They have the skills, they have the competency, there's alignment with their interest, with their vision for the future, and they're able to make that choice, right? So I think, to me, that's what a utopia would be. Yeah.
A very well point raised. To actually have the right to make choices and also have a sense, a confidence to make the choices. And that will only come through the organizations and the agencies if we have them. And they support the people. The psychological mindset is also important. One should have the
Yes.
ability of mind to
Yes.
decipher the ways for the future. And how,
Precisely.
thank you, ma'am, law graduate. So I would like to know, how can media as a fourth pillar help make this vision a reality?
I graduated at 23, and like I said, I didn't have a lot of choices. This was the job, take it or leave it.
Yes.
So
Uh,
I took it, right? And I don't think I thought very hard about what I was doing. So I just want to talk about that. And I think that, it's on reflection, that it's on reflecting on that period, that
mm,
a lot of what I'm going to say today and what I am today comes from that, right?
mm.
Okay, so what role do I think media? Are we talking about media or are we talking about like journalism?
Both, I guess, journalism and media, the new media, the journalism is also well prevailed in new media today. So,
You
any
know,
anyone?
I would say that we have media today, but we don't really have a lot of journalism today.
Yes.
Journalism
So,
is getting harder, scarcer, and what we have in its place is actually a lot of media, right? So I would say the first thing towards building a utopia is that, well, we need more journalism, right? All of I do believe that you're studying journalism, right, as opposed to a media and mass communication course. So I know that in your journalism course, you're actually studying, uh, you're studying political science theories. You're talking about bias. You're talking about a lot of these frameworks, right? Whereas if you look at a media and mass communication course, that is more tilted towards how do you edit, how do you attract an audience,
mm,
right? So there's immediately that difference. So one I would say is that if we want to work towards a utopia, we need more journalism and not just media, right? And within that, I think the role of journalism would be to help people make educated choices, right? I'm going to keep coming back to my choice framework
yeah.
and the role of journalism. And we already said that, right? Which is that people can make meaningful choices, choices that can actually have a impact on their future, right? And in order to do that, you need to have the right information. And journalism is going to play or rather, journalism should be playing that very important role in giving people the right information that helps them make good choices for themselves, right? And and when people make good choices for themselves, right, whether it is as simple as this is a career that I'm interested in, or whether it is this is who I am voting for, um, or that this is the company whose products I think I want to buy, right? People making good choices, it should have a hopefully a trickle up effect. So I think that's one role that journalism can definitely play towards creating a better world. And the media also, I know that I just said, okay, there's journalism and that's where, all the serious stuff is happening and media
Mm,
is all about attracting an audience,
mm,
etc. But that's true. The media does attract a large audience. And so the media, whether it's, even the entertainment industry, that's also media, right?
mm,
They also have a role to play in the kind of stories that they tell. To their stories, stories can expand choices for people, right? There is this, what's it called? If you have journalism, which is constantly talking about, such and such highlight their happiness, then someone reading that is is likely to also feel empowered to take that choice, right? So the media can influence people, journalism can influence authorities, right? And in both senses, hopefully we have just better educated people one way, and a system where there's choice for these people. Yeah.
A very well point raised. Journalism should be informative so that
Mm-hmm.
people can make good choices through it. They should
It is.
disseminate good knowledge so can people make better so can people take better things out of it and make good choices in life. And media also plays a role in disseminating
Exactly.
new ideas. Yes,
Yes.
new ideas. And we see today the journalism has become a journalism of clickbaits, journalism of paid. The most of the content is paid news in media, and media corporations are just going for money, and media and the news has become completely commercialized. So, in your experience, what are the most significant obstacles to achieving a utopian vision, particularly in the context of rising corruption within news organization, paid news, and the rising political intervention in the dissemination of news?
I also think that these are old problems. Whoever controls the printing press
Mhm.
controls opinion, right? So through different periods, I guess different people have
Mhm.
controlled what is the information that's made available, who is it made available to,
Mhm.
and they've used it, to ensure the, shall we say, the stability of a certain system or the longevity
Mhm.
of a certain system. I really don't think I don't think that it's like a new issue, but what can we do right now? I think it's as consumers of news or media, one is to be more discerning. You know, you have to be the change you want to see, and you have to, at some level, you have to vote with your wallet, right? And by wallet, I do mean, what is the thing that everyone wants? Your attention, your 2 minutes of time. Be very choosy about who you give your 2 minutes of time to, right?
Said very well. One has to be empowered at personal level. One has to think at personal level. You have to expand your horizon to understand what is happening in the world and what is happening in the current scenario in the media and the journalism. One can't just one can't just follow whatever is disseminating through the media. One has to think properly. Why is it happening? Why we are listening to such things? What are the other sides of what is the other side of the coin? One has to look at every aspect. That's a very well point raised. And in today's society, where mainstream media tends to prioritize popular issues over marginalized, we see mainstream media majorly covers the things that are happening in the cities, the major cities like Mumbai and Delhi, or the major cities. And we see there are very less coverage of the or less coverage of the cities which are in backward areas. There are very least coverage of the villages. So, what role can the digital media outlets or the digital space can play in providing the space to such news or such things?
Well, I mean, I think digital media is ideally, to an extent, maybe already doing that. It is a
Yes.
place where anyone can go and, publish something, right? So that is something that, you as the yet next young generation, you have to take full advantage of that, right? You have to tell your stories, okay? And you have to tell the stories that aren't being heard, right? and you absolutely have to make use of the digital world in doing that. Okay, now I mean, the challenge, of course, is always going to be that once again, you know, any such outlet is going to be competing with
Mm,
absolute behemoths for people's attention, right? Like I said, that's
mm,
what everyone wants. Everyone wants that 2 minutes of attention. So
mm,
it's going to be a challenge. And I think maybe, I mean, I don't know. We're just a discussion of what could be possible, what could be tried. It has to be tried before, I guess, we discard it. But one of the things that could be possible is perhaps to once again go a little less digital, you know?
mm,
Um, if we if we kind of stay entirely in the digital world, there is a very, very strong possibility that you are going to get overwhelmed, right? Um,
yes.
there is access to information and news from all corners of the globe. It's
Mm,
interesting. Yes, it feels exciting and like you can know what's happening everywhere. But how much of that is actually relevant to you, you know?
mm,
So I would say that definitely shall we say, use digital media, the ease of publishing, right? On digital media.
mm,
You don't need to have like a budget for paper and printing and ink and things like that.
mhm,
So definitely use that ease of digital, but talk about it locally, promote it locally. Don't try to
mm,
promote it perhaps on the internet. The internet is overstuffed, right? If you have a YouTube channel which is doing local news, promote it in the region, in the area that the news is about. Try and build that readership first. Try and build that audience first instead of trying to attract some random audience online. You know, take the news that matters to the people that it matters to.
New media is already very crowded with the people disseminating all kinds of news. And we see even the mainstream media is on the new media now. They
Yeah,
are also
yeah.
disseminating news through the social media and through YouTube. They are continuously live on YouTube also. Mainstream media is already in that sector. And we see there's a lot of competition, and the small people like us can't get that reach, like the news like Ashtak and all. They already have a lot of people viewing their content. It's like so messy in the new media.
You know, so here I would say that like that's the point, right? That at CNN
Hmm.
IPN, again, one of those principles was, you know, why do we need to be first with the news? Why is
Yes.
it that when news is breaking, it should be first on our channel?
Hmm.
So that people are watching us and not watching the competitor, right? I think we were talking about how much competition there is on the internet.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
true, right? At a time where, shall we say, news came via newspapers or through a
Hmm.
news channel, a newspaper would compete against other newspapers, right?
Hmm.
So that's why you would choose the best newspaper, right? Similarly,
Hmm.
you would give your viewership to the best news channel, right? But
Hmm.
now, and so that's, I think that's healthy competition,
Hmm.
you know? Um, but now when the internet is the source of everything, right?
Hmm.
News is competing with entertainment. News
Yes.
is competing with recipes. News is competing with information, like just general information. Now, news is competing with not news, but it's competing with very separate other industries, right? And so, if it wants to retain its audience, it has to provide things that it's not supposed to provide, right? And so that's why suddenly you will have the whatever it is, you will have the food blog, and it's similar, your news channel will also have, all kinds of, has to do all kinds of nonsense, which it should not do. So that's why I would say that, like, somehow, if we can use the internet as just a printing press, right? It's the place where you publish, but you have to build your audience not using the internet, because on the internet there is way too much competition from very, very different um from very, very different things. And so yeah, so use it to publish, but get feet on the ground and build an audience locally, build an audience physically, you know? Yeah,
Yes, one has to promote at the ground level. And news is
absolutely.
already competing with everything. We see in news, they invite chefs also to share the recipe with the audience.
Ex-
They're promoting entertainment news. What is happening in the celebrities' room, their house tour, everything we see in news today.
Yeah,
That is so irrelevant to see in news
yeah.
channels. Yeah.
The point being that when you were reading the newspaper, you were reading news. And when you
Uh,
wanted entertainment, you went to entertainment. Now you
uh,
go online saying, I'm going to read news, but
hmm.
all kinds of
Everything
other
pops
stuff
up.
is being pushed
Yes.
at you, and it's all flashy lights, and you're just like,
Hmm.
but and once again, over here, I like to focus on what we can do. And to that extent, like I said, please be far more discriminating in what you consume. So, like I said, use digital, but practice analog habits,
Hmm.
right? Practice
Yes.
physical, real world habits.
Yes, exactly. We should
Yeah,
practice the real world. We should set our foot on the ground and
yeah,
see what is happening in reality, the ground reality. And so we
absolutely.
are talking about the utopia. Okay? In
Hmm,
the concept of utopian society, there are no conflicts. But we know that utopia is not possible. But let's just imagine in utopian society, there are no conflicts, no wars, no robbery, no corruption, no scandals, and no international borders.
hmm.
So, a place where everything is perfect, do you think journalism will be relevant in a utopia? If there are no such things, what will the journalists report? How can journalism thrive in utopia?
That is, I think this is where um, I bristle against the idea of utopia. I feel like a utopia is, in some sense, it's a hegemony of exactly one culture and one set of universal
Hmm.
values, right? Which is, and everyone is doing that. Everyone right now has their own personal set of values, and they want their personal set of values to be universal values, right? So yeah, so in a utopia where we only have one set of values, yeah, you're right. We might not need journalism at all. We might manage with education and entertainment. And so, once again, there's no choice. There will be no choice. It will be, okay, everyone has to work and be productive. And yes, of course, you can choose your own work, etc., right? But
Hmm.
there are societies, there are cultures that exist today which have different divisions of labor, you know? Um, those cultures would disappear, right? In a
Hmm.
utopia, would we still have space for tribal cultures and customs? What all are you going to actually get rid of in a quest for a utopia? I don't know. I mean, we might not agree with every, I mean, like,
Hmm.
would that mean that all the indigenous people of the Amazons or the people in the Andamans, right?
Hmm.
Would a utopia have homogenized them completely?
Hmm. The
Would we
concept
really
of
want
utopia
that?
is a is a
Yeah,
past. Like
no,
we can't
it's
expect
not.
that in reality,
I,
and
I,
I
that's
I,
want
not
I,
to
even gonna
I,
add
be a
something.
reality.
Can
yeah.
I? I want to
Yes,
add
yes.
something. Yeah. So basically, we're discussing. मुझे लगता है कि if utopia, I believe that it is not about an individual. It would align to a community and align to a goal that everybody, each one of us is following.
Hmm.
So in that case, अगर journalism नहीं होगा, so I think what would be the means of spreading information to people and connect the masses? And
Hmm.
media is about connecting the masses, reaching the masses, having mass participation. तो अगर वो लेयर नहीं हुई जर्नलिज्म की, मीडिया नहीं हुआ, तो आई डोंट थिंक आइडियाज फॉलो हो पाएंगे, आइडियाज कनेक्ट हो पाएंगे फ्रॉम वन कॉर्नर ऑफ द नेशन टू अनदर. So I think
Hmm.
there is a layer to it, maybe.
But Utopia mein media, would it end up playing just the role of propaganda at some level? I mean, good propaganda only because it's a utopia,
Hmm.
right? But right now,
Hmm.
media brings out diversity. And
Yes.
from that diversity and conflict, there is progress. Now, if we imagine a place where we have achieved perfection and we have
Yes.
and everyone is working towards one goal, and you're right, the media will be there, but it'll print the same thing every day
Yes, exactly.
or something similar every day, right? You
Will
know,
there be a conflict of idea in utopian world as well?
there should be. I've defined utopia as a world where people have choices. And if you have choice, if you have meaningful choice, it means that there are different value systems that are still accepted. And if there are different value systems that are still accepted, it means that, yeah, there is likely to be some
Hmm.
amount of conflict or whatever you want to call it. I think that's a good thing. We have to stay. I would say that, let's not envision utopia as a place of absolutes. Absolutes are never good. Never good. I envision utopia as a spectrum, right? I mean, come on, we don't want gender binaries and we don't want gender binaries, but what is a utopia? It's also a binary, perfect or nothing. That's not right.
Like everyone should be able to make choices in a utopia. Utopia, we can't define
Absolutely.
utopia in a single term. It's very
No,
complex.
it is. And it will keep changing based on how
Yes.
the universe
Hmm.
changes, based
Yes,
on how our
exactly.
planet changes, based on all of that, right? So that concept will also keep changing.
Yes.
But
And in
we
the
are
current
thinking very,
times,
very long term over here.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And in the current times, journalism can support in building a utopia by disseminating information through which we can make good choices, meaningful choices. So
Yes.
that's all of the podcast. Anything else you want to say, ma'am?
No, I had a lovely, lovely time talking to all of you. Thank you so very much for inviting me. And I
It's our
really,
pleasure to
really,
have you
really
here.
look forward. No, no, my
Thank you for
absolute
being here,
pleasure.
ma'am.
And thank you.